Today we're discussing a topic that impacts way too many families. When we think about the injustices in the prison industrial system, black men are often the only topic of discussion. But black women are suffering too, and not just because her boo is locked up.
To discuss why women and girls of color are the fastest growing population within U.S. prisons. As of 2014, black women of all ages were 3 times as likely to be in prison.
Incarceration means that we've got a very high rate of incarceration historically, comparatively, and the other thing is the rate of incarceration is so high, so socially concentrated, that we're no longer incarcerating the individual, but we're incarcerating whole social groups.
And I would hope that you would reconsider the issues of whether or not you're going to be represented by counsel.
I'm not going to be represented by counsel. This case is, I'm being illegally remanded to jail again. The court sentenced me to shock probation. The maximum shock term is 60 days. You indicated that on the record, so you're aware of it. You took me into custody again, making that shock sentence illegal. You're relying on 1193 and you're incorrect
I'll
in that
read the
reliance.
papers.
Judge, I can't submit my papers from jail.
Black women incarcerated. According to Oxford Academic, the Journal of American History, the history of incarcerated black women began in the late 19th and early 20th century, even as President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation was still being realized. Black women and families suffered with the issue of poverty, causing some black women to rely on sex work. The police routinely arrested black women for sex work, as well as for domestic disputes. Note, the women, not the men, were arrested. When black women were having their day in court, white judges and white jurors would more often than not trust the testimonies of white employers or white authority figures over a black woman's word, showing a blatant bias in the justice system. Between the years of 1794 and 1835 in Philadelphia, roughly 72% of black women who went before juries were convicted. Black women also had to deal with fewer of their cases being dismissed than any other racial or gender group. Black women made up 47.5% of female prisoners in Philadelphia during that time, even though they made up only 25% of the city's population. Black men accounted for only 29% of male prisoners. Both African American male and female convicts were disproportionately represented at a higher rate.
It brings to mind a poem for me written by Paul Laurence Dunbar that is often attributed to Maya Angelou. And a little bit of it goes like this. I know why the caged bird beats his wing until his blood is red on the cruel bars, because he must fly back to his perch and cling when fain he would be on a bow a-swing. And a pain still throbs in those old, old scars, and it pulses with a keener sting. I know why the caged bird, and we can use this, beats her wing.
On November 28, 2013, Marissa Alexander, an African-American woman, was released from prison in Florida after she served 3 years out of her 20-year sentence. She was sentenced for firing a warning shot in the course of an argument with her estranged husband, whom she had a restraining order against. Her judge, James H. Daniel, overturned her conviction, denying her request for a new hearing under Florida's Stand Your Ground law. Stand Your Ground law is when people can use deadly force when it comes to defending themselves. He denied her a hearing even when warning shots fit in the category of the Stand Your Ground law. Alexander's case mirrors the legacy of black women being excluded from laws that are meant to protect them. Prison nation is the ideological and public policy shifts that have caused an increase in the criminalization of disenfranchised communities where there are more aggressive law enforcement tactics, norm-violating behaviors, and an undermining of civil and human rights. Black women deal with the issue of not having the same amount of power compared to other groups of women. Black women with less power are in danger when it comes to the ideological and strategic direction of the anti-violence movement that has been taking place during the buildup of Prison Nation. Black women in low-income communities are in greater danger than ever. Dealing with the issue of domestic violence places women, but specifically Black women, in alarming environments when a certain number of African American women deal with domestic violence in their own home. It can be cause for many to find themselves dealing with coping mechanisms such as drug use or something even harsher, murder. When committing these crimes, Black women will then have to deal with the consequences of being tried in an unjust justice system and being convicted. There needs to be an approach to this issue that must be about addressing social, economic, cultural, and justice-based changes that allow Black women to be treated equally and fairly under the law.
Man is in the right position, but whether or not the police were afraid of him, right? So all the major news stations replayed the death, the execution of George Floyd over and over and over without any regard to the traumatization of his family or the Black community. And they did that because they knew that would bring them in viewers. It was Black execution for white entertainment.